really one of the first times when I heard like house was on CKLN 88.1 around 1990, and it just freaked me out. I was like, what the hell is this music? And basically from there, like any other young person that was interested in music, started doing research. Then I went to my first party, and I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I heard Dino and Terry play one time at the Boom Boom Mackay, what was called the Underground Railroad. One time there, I started getting, it became infectious. And then, watching guys like Tyrone and Peter and Shams, when they were playing the records, they would all be white labels, like, what the hell is that record? And they would start laughing. 3 weeks later, it came into the record store. And we used to buy 1 copy, 2 copies, 3 copies of the record, because we liked it so much. And that's how, I kind of just carried on with it. Let's see, I would say it was actually more on the reggae side of it. Back at school dances, watching, some of the young DJs back then. I'm not going to mention their names, because then we'll start dating ourselves. We were mixing records, and then after that, I was like, that's kind of cool. I was like, let me try to, like any other guy, start practicing beat mixing, first thing, and then you start practicing your programming, right? And I mean, it's hard to say. And then I remember one of the times when I heard Peter and Tyrone Shams play, a couple after our parties, then I really knew. It was like, you know what, this shit's off the chain. Like, you have to, it's calling you. Not so much that you want to be, it's calling you. It's literally, it's a gravitational pull to the music, to the sound, right? So it began around 1986. It was called the Oblivion Express with Alton Miller. Alton Miller used to be up here, and he used to do that show. And then I think he had left, and there was a gentleman by the name of Tony Barnes that, I guess, he fell in love with the music as well. And it was a brand new music back then, stuff that, music that wasn't heard. And the only place you could hear house music was on community radio. And Tony Barnes started a show called the F.E.A.R. Edit. And that's where he had Peter, Tyrone, and Shams. Well, actually it was with Shams first, and then Tyrone, Peter, they all came in together. And they started doing the show. And then like a couple years later, not even a year later after that, Trini joined the crew. And then, Peter and Tyrone Shams were playing quite often, and they couldn't do the show, left it with Trini. And Trini, within 2 months later, called me up, and we ended up doing the show together. That was in like 1994. Like, Trini was there from 92, and 94, I was there right until the end, And the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, I did it by myself. Because Trini got busy with, with production and traveling and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. Yeah, you know what? It's great, but when it comes down to the whole online radio stations, that is not radio. Radio to me is when you hear it on an FM dial. You go through that little switch and you hear the static, and you hear that, and you finally click into your station. That is radio. All this online stuff is not radio. Its benefits. It's also got major disadvantages too. I mean, the benefits are you can get the music to the people that want the music quicker and more instantly. The only problem with it, you got a lot of people out there that feel that music and art is free. I beg to differ. When a producer goes into a recording studio and spends thousands upon thousands of dollars, bringing in musicians, the whole nine, to make a great record, for it to be shared, freely, without anybody paying for it, is totally wrong. That's why they call it the music business. It's a business first, art secondary. That's the only way you're gonna, just keep the thing going. it's great you have all these digital downloads and so and so and so and so. It's all fun. It's all great. It's perfect. That's what you want. You want people buying music so you can keep going. But at the same time, there's, for every one person that buys, there's 10 that's probably sharing it. You know, and that's why a lot of guys hang up their socks and don't release as much music as they used to. You know, they just don't. The thing about losing underground music on community radio, I mean, yeah, we lost one station here in Toronto. Still a few more out there pumping it. Hopefully politics and money don't get involved with those stations, and they can keep going, right? And keep pushing the music. But as for the amount of listenerships, the amount of people listening to radio, unless you're a big commercial radio station or 680 News, then you're making money. But most community radio don't have the wide audience that commercial radio has, and it's shrinking and it's shrinking and it's shrinking and it's shrinking. You know, most people find they get their music from other means now. So it used to be the radio station when you really wanted to hear the F.E.A.R. edit, or you wanted to hear lounge in the after party, you wanted to hear Dave's dance music, you wanted to hear the power move. You tuned into radio. But now everybody just goes online, and it's instant that way. And so there's the disadvantage for the online radio stations. Chicago always had a sound. I mean, New York had a sound, but that was also fragmented. This whole thing called house music is so fragmented. You know, you got people keep putting labels on all this on this shit. Okay, deep house, tech house, this house. I think Brother Oshilande said it the best. It's soul music. If it comes from your soul, it's soul music. That's what it is. Toronto did have a sound at one point, when you had cats like Dino and Terry playing, Peter Turrell and Shams, Mark and Aki, cats like Dennis Robinson. There was a sound back then in the 90s that was unmistakable. You know, cats like that, they had this one specific sound. So it was kind of hard who you wanted to go see, because it was that good. And then, you know, cats like myself and Trini, we have a specific sound, and we don't divert from that sound. People say, well, you know, what about the sound out of South Africa, or the sound? I said, to be honest with you, there is no sound out of South Africa, personally. It's just, I think the scene out there is a little bit too young to understand a sound. If I listen to guys like Louis Vega and Kenny Dope, Masters at Work, back in the 90s, that was a specific sound that you could relate to all the time. You heard brothers like Ron Trent, Anthony Nicholson, Shade Amir. It was a sound that was coming off the records, and that was being played in the clubs, right? It was a sound. But now there's no specific, you know, something that are grasping anymore. And that's the reason why I don't play out too much, or the reason why I don't go out too much anymore, because I'm not here when I really want to hear it. What's up? This is Joe Rizla, and let there be house.